Let's get started with enhanced intelligence. Another one of the most common and popular abilities you will ever come across in media, real world, and any kind of storytelling. Users of this purely mental-based ability possess an exceptionally high IQ of at least 170 to 200 strictly speaking, and as such can perform exceptional intellectual abilities, movements, and or attack trajectories using nothing more than sheer mental calculations alone. I think you guys are smart enough to figure out what I'm gonna do next. And you would be right, you old nerdy nerds. Intelligence, in its simplest of terms, is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. This ability is so vague and widespread that it ranges from things such as being able to memorize more amounts of information and calculate things extremely well, all the way to processing that same information at the same efficiency as a supercomputer or some kind of electronic processor. So it goes without saying that they'd be able to not only anticipate behavioral patterns and plan a counter, but they can also notice small, minute details and patterns that others would find uninteresting or just straight up ignore, as well as being able to translate or find knowledge that has been lost to time. And just like the real world and fictional concepts that this power is based off of, being the benevolent Shay that I am, I need to warn you guys, 1, I'm not that smart, and 2, stay away from the alcohol and hardcore mind-altering substances. Because yes, while they are fun, the info past this point is going to make you go mad from the revelation, and if you don't have the patience and brain capacity to comprehend it, you are literally going to be in some hot water. Well, not literally, but you get the gist. Oh no, Shay, what do? I don't want to be a stupid. Well, I'm glad you asked, Shay. There are numerous supplements you can take to increase mental capabilities, but in this case, all I'm going to ask you guys to do is hit that like and subscribe button. That's right, you'll gain the exclusive ability to have the mind of a computer. Remember guys, work smarter, not harder. Thank you, Dad. And while you're at it, hit that share button as well so you can anticipate when I release another video and let others know as a result. So, if you guys were born with brain power beyond that of a C battery, then wait, did that even make any sense? This power will be pretty dang easy to provide some background on. Well, sort of, in the general sense. But anyway, don't ask me what the origins of intelligence is because, well, the answer is a lot simpler than you think. But if you are looking for an answer, then look no further than the world we exist in. What we call intelligence is really just the consciousness and the ability to rationalize and reason in the world we exist in. I mean, its origins could have come from anywhere. But what I can tell you is that it is a combination of millions of years worth of evolution. We also have the concept of light and fire's effect on the human's brain, as throughout those millions of years, seeing more allowed us to learn more. And on top of all that, humanity's tendency to be group animals usually teaches us basic skills for interaction and survival, which then gets passed down throughout various generations and transforms into various forms of mental study. That was pretty simple. In fact, these reasons are so standard that legends and myth around the world more or less state the very same thing. For example, in Greek mythology, Prometheus stole fire from the gods and delivered it to humanity in order to teach them and help them survive and develop. Which is why fire and light are symbolic with advancement, in certain cases. In Judeo-Christian lore, humans are descendants of a predecessor that ate a fruit from a forbidden tree of knowledge and as a result gained self-awareness along with other concepts such as shame and guilt. Heck, there are even literal beings, monsters and gods alike, who make intelligence or, knowledge, their domain of worship and actively try to push humans to be smarter, oftentimes by offering punishments if they don't do so. Typical examples of this found within human stories or legends of some sort are usually trolls that live under a bridge, you can't pass unless you answer their question. Or in the same vein, a sphinx, who would challenge those they encountered to answer a riddle and then eat them or kill them if they didn't answer the question correctly. The common denominator between those two and the previously mentioned examples are that ignorance is not bliss and you'll pretty much pay for being stupid. Okay, before we dive further into this video, there's some things I want to clear up. When people think of intelligence, they usually lump in cleverness and smarts with it under an umbrella category, if you will. In actuality, if we really get down to the brass knuckles of it, did I use that idiom right? In actuality, there's really no true difference between intelligence, smarts, and cleverness, as they're all in the domain of knowledge and are pretty much viewed the same. But if I had to draw a line in the sand, because you guys like when I do that obviously, or else you wouldn't come back to watch these videos, I would state that there is a difference, no matter how small or insignificant you might think. Fair warning, these are subjective summaries to help you with your creativity. Don't hold me to the exact wording. Intelligence normally refers to learned knowledge and usually represents itself as the ability to understand ideas, people, and things, aka book smarts. Cleverness refers to the wit and oftentimes wisdom of an individual, or the capability to actively apply what you learn. So simply put, the ability to manipulate ideas, people, and things, aka street smarts. Meanwhile, smarts are a more neutral term and refers to the ability to make the right decision at the right time, and just like cleverness, applying what you learn to be able to judge ideas, people, and things, aka decision making. Like I said earlier, those summaries are very subjective, so take from that what you will. Now, we all know that the only way to quantify intelligence as we understand it is by having sentience. In fact, without the ability of self-awareness and the ability to rationalize, there is no way to measure intelligence as we know it. This concept is not only something found in humans, but numerous other animals of our world who can create and use tools. But human intelligence in particular is the intellectual power of humans, which is marked by the complex cognitive feats and high levels of motivation and self-awareness that humans possess. So with that being said, this is something not only found in humans, but also other numerous animals of our world that can create and use tools, and there are a good bit of them. But human intelligence in particular is the intellectual power that humans possess naturally, which is normally marked by complex cognitive feats and high levels of self-motivation and self-awareness, with the concept of intelligence usually being associated with the head or brain of an organism. And what's the head normally associated with in addition to intelligence? That's right, behavior. In fact, in some cases, it's believed that an individual's intelligence is in direct correlation to how they carry themselves or how they behave, which in turn fits them into a stereotypical behavioral mold or personality archetype. And as such, in order to actually measure or calculate intelligence, there are numerous subjects ranging from IQ tests to the creation and study of psychology, all the way to the more everyday subjects like math or reading comprehension. But additional forms of intelligence exist as well, such as emotional or social forms of intelligence, which have to do with handling people or collecting intel. So as you can see, the concept lists that relate to this power are pretty extensive. But on the more esoteric side of things, the concept of intelligence is so ingrained and valued in how we process the world that we usually do a bit of personification when it comes to evaluating intelligence in others. In a weird way, it's almost as if the act of discovering intelligent life similar to our own gives said life a higher pecking order in the food chain, which in turn makes it more important to us. And this isn't a one-off thing either. When it comes to other forms of intelligence such as AI, artificial intelligence, or plant-based intelligence, the more we discover about these forms of intelligence actually being able to feel or change how they feel based on the surrounding information given to them makes us think that intelligence can exist in many different forms, which it can. Ironically though, the pursuit of intelligence makes us realize how unintelligent we really are, which is where the saying knowledge can lead to suffering partly comes from. I think I may have butchered that a little bit, but you guys get the gist. And because it can lead to thinking that can change how things are viewed, like a catalyst if you will, that's honestly what intelligence represents symbolically. Something used in order to get the ball moving on something else, aka a catalyst. After all, knowledge itself is just a vector and is pretty useless without being applied towards something. I mean, there's no point of having a bunch of knowledge if you don't actually use it. But getting back into this concept as a superpower, this power, for one, is one of the more challenging superpowers for a user to possess and for a user to write for. I mean, it's usually hard for the creator or said creator to write a character who's smarter than them. which brings up other issues such as not knowing how to motivate said character, how to characterize said character, or even how to empathize with said character. But most writers get around this by treating the superintelligence as being only science related and having no effect on their interpersonal skills, which is another potential hurdle that writers cross. Is that as an internal power, superintelligence has to be demonstrated verbally, usually through the stereotypical word salad, basically mumbling or gibberish, which in turn will have the smarty person using big condescending words towards others. Although a less common but more relatable version of this power is having a plain spoken but super intelligent character tinker with electronics or engage in geek out moments, the way I do when I talk about superpowers. But long story short, these characters, when portrayed, will always deal with moral conflicts more than physical conflicts because of their unnatural way of existing in the world, because they're so smart. More often than not, they usually have a pessimistic worldview because of their rationality, or they always seem on the cusp of something taboo, which in turn can isolate them from others, which can make them fall back into their intelligence, which makes them smarter and isolates them further from people, which makes them go back into their intelligence. You see the spiral here. But a super smart character has the potential to radically alter a setting or even create a technological monopoly or some kind of singularity. And as such, most mediums or stories will usually have the plot or the big event be kicked off because a smart person was dabbling in something they had no business doing. And with that being said, these changes can be positive or negative depending on not just their morality, but how the setting treats said smarty. And depending on how they treat this smart guy, you'll see endless variations of this power, ranging from the mad scientist of many different forms, the tech guy who uses machines like magic, the detective whose deduction and investigation skills are second to none, the master manipulator whose skill with dealing with other people makes him the bane of any organization. You'll even find the guile trickster who plays mental games with others as a form of exercise. But it doesn't stop there. There's also the neurotic spaz who has, hundreds of equations scribbled across multiple whiteboards and can't hold a normal conversation to save their life. There's also the doctor of any background whose main trade is the knowledge they spent most of their life acquiring. Shoot, even the stereotypical psychic or person with psychic powers that has telekinesis, telepathy, can be written off by using this power as an excuse. They're so smart that they just develop psychic powers. But that's normally on the extreme side of the scale, because their intelligence will normally be symbolic in that case and will carry esoteric capabilities that normally translates to their specific psychic power. An example, a super surgeon being able to psychically slice people apart or perform psychic surgery on people. Stats for a user of this power, I guess range, but normally the user has low attack power because this ability exists in their heads, low defense because a wrong hit to the head and brain damage will make you way less smarty, but very high speed because most if not all forms of super intelligence require faster than average thinking in order to form conclusions to solve problems. And immense versatility, as there are endless ways intelligence can be applied and endless subjects that it can be applied to. Normally, characters will be seen with stereotypical big brains or big heads even, in comparison to others or their own body. They will be seen with glasses in like 99% of the cases, and range from being unkempt and scatterbrained or extremely anal and organized. So expect a lot of equations, a lot of big words, a bunch of robots, and or scientific themed mumbo jumbo. Now, because this is a power that's easier to portray with telling rather than showing, I'm going to take some liberties with these examples, but believe me, they will get the point across. That's just an FYI for you guys. Now, with the power of enhanced intelligence comes the natural ability to, possess a mind that's capable of doing things that average members of their species can't via an enhanced mind. This would allow a user of this power to take in information at such speeds that time appears to have slowed down to them, allowing them to detect faster moving details with accelerated perception. But in order to make sense of what your mind is slowed down in order to perceive, you would need the incoming information to reach your brain way faster than what's found in a normal member of your species, with accelerated thought process. With that in your bag of tricks, you would then be able to display or portray complicated equations and problem-solving capabilities with enhanced calculation. Well, since you look at everything as a problem that needs to be solved, problem solver, unless you like the dysfunction and the unpredictability of the world you live in, it would make sense to take things slow, settle down, and live your life in a very planned manner because you possess tactical analysis. And obviously, with all the mental gymnastics you're putting yourself through on a daily basis, if one doesn't have an enhanced memory, there would be no way for a user of this power to remember anything, as memory is a part of planning or problem solving. And to add on to that, with photographic deduction, the user possesses amazing investigative and information processing abilities, which allows them to figure out connections and processes at an extraordinarily fast rate. So for example, if one with this application saw someone gesturing, drawing, or sign language in something in the air or in low visibility, they would be able to pick up on it instantly with great detail and clarity. Next step up from, I guess, keeping your big brain powers inside is to, I don't know how to say this exactly, displaying it outward, maybe? Anyway, users would then be able to recall or understand a vast amount of learned information and knowledge on all things that they learned, almost as if the knowledge is innate within them by having encyclopedic knowledge. And in order to explain that information in a manner that others can follow without getting a dead-eyed stare from those you try to educate, then elucidation is one that every human needs, both super and non-super. But there's no point of being able to explain things if you can't pick up on and instantly analyze, learn, and understand the workings and or mechanics of anything you get your grubby little nerdy mitts on. This is regardless of how simple or complex the item you're trying to understand is, because you have intuitive aptitude. So with all the learned knowledge, the ability to articulate, and the ability to understand things without issue, this could allow the user to perform other tasks. If all that information in their heads mixes together in weird ways, you could generate an exceptional number of ideas from that combination, which would then give this user enhanced creativity. If they use that knowledge to flawlessly craft any item via methods of forging, molding, or non-complex methods of modern industrialization, you know, the kind where it mostly relies on the manipulation of raw materials, then you have a user of enhanced craftsmanship. Meanwhile, on the other side of the scale, if one used modernized methods of building, refining, and using what has already been discovered, and then combining those techniques in different ways, then you, my nerd and nerdette, are using or witnessing enhanced inventing. Meanwhile, those that are even more experienced with this ability and allow this power to run their life completely tend to operate strategically, which allows them to always think on one's feet while being cool and completely adaptable in any situation. So having enhanced wits not only makes these users quick on their feet and very clever, but they are able to adapt to new and changing situations and remain calm while doing so. This can also tap into the unbeatable power that Batman's known for, which is prep time. And due to prep time, more often than not, that'll allow the user to come out on top of any situation because they thought ahead of time, because of prep time. This power can range from statements such as "your plan was my plan," or "luckily I came prepared," or even "I thought of that ahead of time," blase blase. But no matter what, any user of enhanced preparedness will always come out on top in most conflicts through sheer planning alone. The best way for any thinking being to plan ahead of time is to simply think about the problem and then solve said problem simultaneously without suffering any fatigue or mental blocks via parallel processing. And in the same vein, if you think about multiple problems and solutions at once, then you're more than likely going to find out that there are different ways you can go about solving said problem. So with the ability of probability perception, you can run simulations and calculate the odds of success versus failure based on pure cognitive input alone. And let's be honest here, if you can effortlessly perform complex mental operations that are drastically beyond the capability of a normal human mind, then making mental actions or processes based on various forms of knowledge and understanding you acquired can enhance and experience the senses, making you much more powerful than the average person mentally via hypercognition. And with this last doozy of a power, the user has such laser-like focus when performing any mental-based action that it's impossible to distract them, meaning that the mental processes that are normally set aside for things such as reflexes or instinct are completely ignored and or overshadowed. So in the case of a superpowered fight or superpowered conflict with anybody else, a user of maximum concentration capacity cannot be countered, jump scared, faked out, or interrupted, as performing any action using this application goes beyond second nature and instinct and more or less just happens automatically. And there you have it, enhanced intelligence in a nutshell. This ability is pretty dang on overpowered if you think about it, because the funny thing about this power in a more meta-contextual or metaphysical terms of speaking, I guess, whatever the term is you want to use, most superpowers, even ones I've done on this channel already, can't be used to the full potential without the use of enhanced intelligence in any way, shape, or form, even the lower tier applications of this power. So if that doesn't get you excited about this power, then nothing else will. But more limitations do exist in the form of the knowledge and intelligence one learned may be limited to certain areas of expertise or can't be used due to certain conditions like environmental conditions. The user's genius intellect may also cause various emotional or psychological effects that are a complete problem of their own and deserve their own video. And because they have this power doesn't mean they can't make mistakes or get outsmarted by someone at a higher level of intelligence. And lastly, the user's brain capacity might be too small or have a limit on how much intelligence collecting or storage brain can actually withhold, which is something that plagues our real world. And now, with all that out of the way, it's time to place this ability on the scale. Enhanced intelligence is another power that everyone would want. I know I do. So, no more defilla. On a scale of 1 to 10, the Shea scaling system gives this power, well, a perfect score, right? I mean, there really isn't a lot this power can't do in terms of applications because they lead to other capabilities or even other powers. So, I'm going to give this ability Shea's first 10, and if you guys have a problem with it, yell at me in the comment section. But with all that said and done, I'll see you guys again in the next video. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.